Hi everyone, and welcome to the Newman Bond, the official podcast of Newman University. I'm your host, Amy Brooks, and today I'm thrilled to welcome our two guests, Jane Hayes and Amy Taylor. We're going to be talking about Newman's Master of Science in Education Reading Specialist Dyslexia Emphasis Program, and about the great work that teachers can do with this accreditation. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce Jane first. So Jane has more than 15 years of experience as a dyslexia therapist and holds a Master of Science in Dyslexia Therapy degree. She's also a certified academic language therapist, a qualified instructor, and a certified structured literacy dyslexia specialist. And Amy has been providing dyslexia therapy services since 2017 and is a certified academic language therapist. She holds a Master of Science as a reading specialist and a certified structured literacy dyslexia specialist. Both instructors are highly qualified, have extensive experience working with students who have dyslexia, and have made significant contributions to the field through their research and curriculum development. So their work has also recently received national recognition through the International Dyslexia Association's Accreditation Plus distinction, which is a huge milestone in literacy education. So we're going to talk about what this accreditation means, how R.E.A.D Redefined is transforming the way that educators teach reading, and R.E.A.D Redefined is their co-owned business, and why Newman's MSED program is such a valuable resource for teachers. So let's dive in. Thank you, Jane and Amy, for being here today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Of course. So first, let's talk about dyslexia. That's a term that people may have heard once or twice before, but they might not know the extent of what it is. So can one of you explain, or both of you explain, what that kind of means?
Yeah, so dyslexia is a neurobiological learning disability. It means that children have trouble reading, writing, and spelling. It's often founded in phonological processing deficit, and there's usually a difference between their reading skills and their other cognitive skills. And the reason that that's so important to understand and know is because 1 in 5 children are dyslexic. So there's a large population of children in the classroom that are not necessarily diagnosed but is on that spectrum.
Okay. Thank you so much for enlightening us on that. What are some common misconceptions of dyslexia?
They range. You can Google it all and you will come up with so many different misconceptions. Some of it can be from lack of exposure to literacy. And like I said, it's neurobiological. So it's going to be in the brain. So it has nothing to do with vision. Vision therapy is not going to cure it. Dyslexia cannot be cured. One of the worst things you can do is wait. So a lot of problems with it is people say, well, you'll grow out of it, or they're just really young. Well, that's not necessarily true. And then as well as it's not seeing backwards or reading backwards. It has nothing to do with that.
Okay, that is helpful to know for our educators, but also for parents who might be unfamiliar or just starting out on that journey to know dyslexia a little bit better. So can one of you explain what structured literacy is and why it's an essential approach for teaching students with dyslexia?
I love that you asked that question. Structured literacy is really this synthesis of research that has been going on for really over 50 years, but primarily has been focused on for the last 25. And it's not only how the brain learns to read, but also what are best teaching strategies for that. One of the things, as you said, about parents that is helpful is that parents don't understand what structured literacy is and how that can affect their students. So even just a simple Google search on structured literacy can at least help that situation. Structured literacy is really getting and implementing the best practices. So as teachers, there's a lot of work that goes into teaching. There's a lot of time, there's a lot of prep. And it's one of those that we know that reading is probably one of the most important subjects. If you can't read, you're going to struggle in all your other classes. So using best practices is our best way to work smarter, not harder.
That is a wonderful way to describe it. Well done. So let's talk a little about your organization, R.E.A.D Redefined, which recently received the IDA Accreditation Plus distinction, which is a huge deal for our listeners. Can you please share what this recognition means and why it's so significant?
Yeah, so we're thrilled to actually receive this. And Jane and I co-authored our program. So R.E.A.D Redefined program is the program we teach at the university, as well as the books that we wrote. So those books, it's not just taking our word for it and saying, yes, our program works. It's actually going to them and having a very rigorous peer review process where they looked at our curriculum, they looked at our PowerPoints, they looked at everything, and they determined this works, this incorporates structured literacy, this incorporates the science of reading, this has that bridge the gap of application.
That's amazing. Well, thank you. You're clearly making a positive difference, and it's amazing that Newman's MSED program allows students to take advantage of those awesome resources as well. So Newman's MSED program is the only, currently at least, reading specialist master's degree program with dyslexia emphasis. So what does this mean for teachers going through your training?
Yeah, so this is exciting for us because we will be the first program in the state of Kansas that holds the Accreditation Plus status and has that teaching to application part as the heart of our program, as the main piece of it. So we're going to be the first, which is always exciting to be.
Yeah, and teachers will have that edge that might get them hired versus somebody else.
Absolutely. Correct.
And not to mention the benefits that students will receive from having somebody who's that qualified as well. So wonderful. And this graduate degree is designed to provide full-time working teachers with skills to develop those reading instructional strategies and interventions for all students pre-K through 12. So how does it help them improve their instructional practice if they've already been doing this for a while?
So I referenced this a little bit earlier when I talked about working smarter, not harder. And it's one of those that we want to make sure that our students are getting the best that they need. So many times in our situation in education, you kind of feel like you're out there on your own. And when you're out there on your own, it's very isolating. How do I affect all kids in Kansas if I'm just having to concentrate just on my own little group? However, it's one of those that structured literacy best practices. If we all start implementing those best practices, all kids are going to start learning to read. What we do know, unfortunately, that Kansas currently sits about 68% of our fourth grade students in our state are reading below basic. What you need to understand is basic is 2 years behind grade level. So when we see those scores, basic kind of sounds like, all right, they're doing all right, they're holding their own. But actually what it really means is they're barely holding on. So we want to make sure that by working together, by joining everybody together, we can use these best practices, whether you're using our books or whether you're using district-provided curriculum, we can get kids to the status of what they know and get that they can improve their reading across the board.
That's amazing. And I'm sure all students benefit from that, not just students with dyslexia as well.
Exactly, correct.
So amazing. Well, let's talk about the connection between your business, R.E.A.D Redefined, and Newman University. So can you tell me how this partnership came about?
So a couple of years ago, we had this little thing, COVID, and lo and behold, we all got home. I decided to not waste my time with sitting around doing absolutely nothing. So I decided to go back and look for a program that also offered structured literacy. At the time, I did not have my master's. So I went to the IDA website and I went to another website, it's called CERI, Center for Effective Reading Instruction, to look for a master's program that I could learn, that I could go through, that I could learn these exact skills that I have that matched what I had. It was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So when I came back, when I actually finished and I graduated, we had a wonderful conversation with the Dean of Education, Dr. Jessica Bird, and she was so open and so supportive when I said, a teacher in Kansas shouldn't have to drive 11 hours to get this instruction. Why can't we do it at our state? And she has been so supportive and so on board with all of our things, all of our program, and getting things implemented to get teachers to be the best that they can out there.
So we are very grateful to Dr. Bird.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
Yes.
And that really does, I mean, if you think about how many other states come to Kansas for college experiences and how many teachers we have graduate from Newman in general, both in Southwest Kansas and here on our main campus in Wichita. So many would benefit from having this distinction, this accreditation. So yeah, thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for being kind of the spearheads of this endeavor. Yeah.
Well, somebody's got to start. It's exciting.
Thank you for doing it. And this program really is designed for that hands-on learning approach. It's a 10-course, 30-hour program, and educators can immediately apply the techniques that they learn by teaching colleagues the exact same procedures. So how does this practical approach help educators translate research into classroom success?
So we have lots of different ways we do that. So we have our 2 main courses, which are those 2-week-long sitting and getting kind of informationals with the practicums built into those where they teach each other. Then what my favorite part of the course is the rest of the 3 courses are all practicum courses, which means you take all that research, all of that information that you've just learned, you go out into your classroom and you teach it, and then we check in. So you're constantly applying everything that we've learned all the time, and you're coming back with your progress monitoring. You're coming back with all of your assessment results or your curriculum, and we're talking about that. So it works perfectly because it's a perfect transition into, okay, this is how you do it, now show me how you do it. So
that's good, and that builds confidence in the students.
Yes.
And really provides that maybe scaffolding that they would provide to their own students to kind of get them where they need to be.
Exactly. The summer courses are kind of key in that we do it on purpose. Unfortunately, yes, it's 2 weeks in the summer. We do it at the end of in July so that we're setting you up for the school year. We don't want to do August because, let's face facts, teachers in August, things are kind of crazy. So we want to make sure that we're getting that best time frame of, here you go. When you go back and you start setting up your classroom, let's think about things that you can implement immediately.
And we've been in the classroom. We've experienced this. We've both been teachers. We both continue to have full caseloads of students now. So we know that a lot of times you get this great information, you get this great research, and they say, okay, go forward and do this. But you have no guidance and you have no idea actually how to apply that. We felt that as educators ourselves, and we wanted to think of what is a way that we can teach this, and then teachers don't feel like they've been abandoned and they can come back for help. So this is what we came up with.
Well, that's a great process.
Yeah.
I think
Anybody can buy the book, but that doesn't mean
Right.
you know how to implement it.
Exactly.
So this is a coaching, mentoring type program where we don't leave you stranded.
Yeah, you get like a safe trial and error that then you
A
can
guided
apply. Yeah,
Exactly.
love that. So, like I said earlier, the work you're doing is clearly making a difference already, not only with your students, but all the students who will benefit from going through Newman's program, and the students of those teachers who receive it, the students of the students. So how does this program help teachers identify and support students with dyslexia in the classroom? I know we've already kind of touched on that, but if there's anything I haven't, or you haven't added to it that
We do lots of different things. We do screeners. We teach them how to provide screeners. We teach them what it looks like, those at-risk signs of what those look like, and how those, so dyslexia is a spectrum, so there's lots of range of what that can look like and how it will show itself. So we teach them that, and then we're constantly looking at their assessments, where if whatever program they use in their curriculum or in their school district, if they use FastBridge or Ames Web, we look at that, and then we help them figure out, all right, what are we seeing? Or what are we seeing for grouping? Are we noticing some kids that are falling below? What are we noticing? So we kind of walk them through that process to help them.
And that's helpful because I feel like as a teacher, that would be kind of an overwhelming aspect of you're not only trying to manage your classroom and make sure students are where they need to be, but also paying extra attention to those who might be at risk of falling behind or needing more support. So
Exactly.
awesome. So how does this program equip teachers to better identify and support students?
Well, one of the things that we have all recognized in the last several years is that researchers don't know how to teach, and teachers don't have time to read research. So we've kind of done that for you. So how is it? It's the bridge between those two things. And not only is it the blah, blah, blah that comes with those lectures sometimes, but it's also that application, because that's the key piece, that coaching component. What does it look like in my classroom? What can I do in this situation? How can I address this specific student? So it's really that link between knowing what's out there, knowing what the research is. That's our job. We read the research, we study the research, we implement it into the program. Even as soon as last spring, I attended a conference in May and turned around and we applied it in our June conference or our June workshop. So it's one of those, it's immediate application. As soon as we have it, we make sure to share it with the teachers in our courses.
Awesome. So beyond individual classrooms, how do you foresee this work impacting entire districts and school systems?
Well, again, when we have a reading crisis going on in our state, we want to make sure that it's not just a single classroom, or want to make sure it's not. Ideally, we've been able to do this in other states, we've been able to train entire teams of teachers in a school. That gives them the terminology as well as the application. That gives them a peer, a colleague to say, what does this mean when they're doing this? And if it helps, when you're not in the boat alone. And then it can also help when you can say, all right, I have this question. And they'll send us little videos. The student is doing this. How do I fix this? What do I do here? Why are they doing this? So it helps in terms of, it's what you said earlier, it's that ripple effect. Yes, we're teaching teachers. Teachers are teaching students. Students are here not only in our state, but in surrounding states that are coming to the Newman program. It has that ripple effect.
Beautifully said. And as we look ahead, what are some of the biggest challenges in literacy education today?
So Jane already kind of talked about this a little bit, but it is exactly the difference between the research and the application. So we're not sure of how to bridge that, or educators aren't sure how to take that research. Okay, we've heard this lecture, we've heard all of the information about it. Now, how do I put that into the curriculum that my district provided me? That's the biggest difficulty that we're seeing.
Yeah, biggest hurdle. And how is Kansas prioritizing reading proficiency, and how does this align with your mission?
Well, the state of Kansas last year passed a bill, the Blueprint for Literacy, and during all of that transition, KSDE, Kansas Department of Education, is now requiring any teacher K-6 who has that ability to be teaching reading at some point in time, that they need to have something on their teaching license called the Seal of Literacy. So how is it affecting? This is one of those things that these are the courses, these are the applications. We're working towards getting on that list to make sure that our program and our students are out there to be able to get the best access and get that Seal of Literacy and be able to just know what they know and own it and have confidence in what they know.
Awesome. Now, what's next for R.E.A.D Redefined and Newman's partnership?
Oh, we have so many ideas. Some of the areas that we're hoping to dive into is classroom teachers are one thing. We also need to talk about administration. And so we want to dive into the administrative world. And what does it look like when you go through a class walkthrough? What should I be looking for? They need to have that knowledge just as much as the classroom teacher does. So we can continue to have that same vocabulary all throughout the building. So we're hoping to dive that way. And we're also hoping to go into the pediatric world, into the medical world. So I'm a mama. So if you think about, if my kid is having trouble, who's the first person I talk to? It's going to be my pediatrician. And the pediatrician, you go there, well, because they say, well, that's a medical problem. They go to the pediatrician, the pediatrician says, well, that's not a medical problem. Where do I go? So we need to educate everybody on what are those at-risk signs so we know how to filter these people correctly, because we know that the early intervention is key for these kids, and that's what makes the difference. So if we can educate the medical field on what to look for and the kind of the timeline, then that will hopefully streamline that a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really bridging the gap in a lot of areas, and I could see complete potential for that in the medical field specifically, and that way all of our systems kind of benefit, not just education, so.
One of the sayings that I've heard is we need to stop working in silos. We need to bring all the silos together and be a research and a connection for across the state. yes, it's about Newman, and yes, we want to make our Newman grads number one. Of course, that's just go Jets. However, we also want to make sure that our research and our knowledge can help all students and all universities. It's not about, I have something and I have a secret and I'm not sharing it. It's about, we got to work in this together. No one person, no one team can educate the entire state.
Awesome. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Beautifully said. You clearly know what you're talking about. And so, last question I'll leave you with. How can you see educators, administrators, and parents get involved or learn more?
So we are going to be having another info session on April 13th at 3 o'clock. So if you're interested in that, then you go to the website, you can sign up, and it is a free informational, just kind of tell a little bit more. It's your chance to ask questions that you might have, to look into the program. It's at 3 o'clock, and that link will be emailed to you. But also just email us and contact us. We are here, we're around, we're ready for questions. So contact us as much as you can.
Well, thank you for being available for people and for being so open to answering my questions today. Thank you for joining us on the Newman Bond. I heard a lot of really positive potential for this program and for how much it's going to benefit. And part of Newman's mission is helping our students transform society for the better. So just hearing the ways that you're doing that really lights my soul on fire. I'm sure it will for others too. Thank you for all that you're doing to improve literacy education and specifically benefit those students with dyslexia. If you're an educator looking to advance your skills in reading instruction, check out Newman University's Master of Science in Education Reading Specialist with Dyslexia Emphasis program. Thank you for listening to the Newman Bond. We release new episodes every first and third Tuesday of the month. So until next time, Jets, we'll see you later.
I was like, what? I have no
I get a lot more blessings out of that.
really fun experience.
Really the Newman experience.